How about these folks from Sencan? What a conference you've put on. Way to go, folks. And I survived. I just informed Marla that I was not going to be able to go to the mining convention in Las Vegas in 2 weeks. And I know, boo, but I was thinking worse things from you, Marla. I was lucky to get out of here. But folks, what an extraordinary opportunity we have here. As was alluded to, over the past 6 years, mining projects have moved forward. Can I use that sentence? You know, because it's true. For a very long time, they were stuck somewhere. A lawyer might call it escrow. Different people involved in the projects would use other words, far more descriptive, I'm certain. But government hasn't always, or typically even in some respects, been there for you folks when you needed it the most. Like Premier Ford, he understood that. And when he set me loose as the Minister of Mines, Northern Development, Energy, and the Minister of Indigenous Affairs in the first couple of years as we built up our bench strength and put a government in the front window for the people of Ontario, that we could make a difference in the lives of everyone. Our First Nations communities, our towns and cities, townships, large and small, and move to a place where Ontario, rather than being Canada's fiscal basket case, was its economic engine. An engine we knew that we could be. It would look and feel different from the days in the past. We would have new partnerships with First Nations communities. We would discover that Ontario's value proposition was in fact magnificent. And critical minerals, which I'll speak about here a little bit, and I'm sure George expounded on it at greater length, plays a key role in it. But underpinning it is the mining sector itself. So the opportunity to speak about central Canada, you know, one would argue the new center of gravity for mining that spans from Sudbury through Timmins and now across as it shifts and expands to places like Greenstone. We see an extraordinary opportunity. Our mineral wealth in quantity and quality is world-class, exquisite. I've heard it referred to in terms of the caliber, the grade, and the quantity. Our mineral wealth provides a solid foundation for economic growth in Northern Ontario. I was just speaking at the forest at the 100-year celebration of Thunder Bay Pulp and Paper, and I was telling the folks that for a long time on Bay Street, they referred to us as a commodity and resource boom or bust economy. I don't call it that. Now, I look in the faces of the crowd today, I think we're more apt to refer to it as resilience. And now, at the precipice of base metals value and critical minerals capacity in Northern Ontario, mining innovation at a place here in Northern Ontario that rivals the world over, we have never been in a better position. And I've painted a pretty good picture here, but I know some of you are still grappling with some fundamental concepts. Education and training, preparing a workforce to actually go in there in a highly automated environment and respect the grounds we extract from, build solid partnerships with our communities across Northern Ontario, especially our First Nations, the First Nations communities. And for the first time, perhaps ever, connect ourselves with Southern Ontario's massive expansion into battery storage, battery power, EV technologies, it offers the world something that no other jurisdiction, particularly sub-sovereign jurisdictions, can offer. And that is, Kevin, its biggest environmental policy ever. Other countries talk about it, other countries think they're doing it, but China can't hold a flame to us. Their labor practices, their environmental practices, and others create serious problems for the rest of the world. And some of the other countries like Russia, where there's a serious play in these, raise similar and indeed other concerns. But we're just good folk from Ontario, and we think we have got it all in spades. So the global investment is moving here. The partnerships look better than they have perhaps forever. And my job as the Minister of Northern Development and the Minister of Indigenous Affairs and First Nations Economic Reconciliation is to live up to the red-green standard. And I don't mean this anecdotally, but we're all in this together. And I believe that's happening here on the ground today. I see friends from a long time, partnerships that we've been working and building on. And in my ministry, I've come here to assure you that work, that's not just work in progress. We share a vision with you to maintain our commitment to build structurally the kind of economy in Northern Ontario for the sector of mining writ large and all that it entails. How do we do that? Well, as the chairman of the Northern Ontario Heritage Fund, we're designed and remodeled, refurbished to foster economic growth, job creation, workforce development through the North, benefiting communities through enhancement funding that they've never seen before. We want our young families to come and live here and stay. And the ones that have been here for time immemorial or for a century or so to commit long term. And so our programs have been targeted to existing and emerging markets, providing more work opportunities for Indigenous peoples, their communities and their businesses, and of a scale not seen before. The cultural supports program give vibrancy and dynamism to the things that we all know are the reasons we love about our communities. And so whether it's a powwow or a fall fest or a folk fest, these are things that we enjoy in our spare time, as scarce sometimes as it might be. I alluded to the Community Enhancement Program, but for the first time in the history of the Northern Ontario Heritage Fund, we're giving small and isolated First Nations communities, townships, and little itty-bitty towns still that we call Red Lake and Koshner, Bombertown, and the likes, an opportunity to contribute to their recreational infrastructure so that communities can live, stay, and play meaningfully. The Invest North program drives economic growth by supporting real business development, expansion, and innovation. We have written an invitation for businesses to come here and do their work with us and for the greater good of Ontario. And lastly, the People and Talent program, building a skilled northern workforce that is durable, that is polyvalent, and can respond to the incredible, if not rapid, changes within this sector writ large. Let me give you a couple of examples. We've approved millions of dollars in funding for Frontier Lithium, their operations in Sudbury, and more recently, we have announced a bridge across Barons River that will unlock the potential for the White Feather Forest project, of which Pikangikum First Nations has its exclusive enhanced sustained forestry license, and where Frontier Lithium will carry out its extraction community. We will liberate more than 10,000 First Nations peoples living in isolated communities who have spoken from the ground and through their leadership that they want roads in and out of their communities. And that's exactly what we intend to build. We're investing in industrial research chairs here at Lakehead University, focusing on mineral resources. We're making sure that we have a skilled labor force that is transferable. And so when the commodity markets are exposed to a little bit of fragility, workers can move wherever. That's important because Minister Lecce is up in Sachiko Lake First Nations today turning the electrified lights on. No more diesel power for them as of today. With almost, yeah, that is right on. Dozens of communities already connected. Minister Lecce will be rolling out one of the single biggest energy corridor expansions in the history of Ontario, and as many of them are going to take place here in Northern Ontario as they are in the south. Friends, we have 800,000 square kilometers of land. It's beautiful. It must be maintained and sustained, and if not enhanced. And through our partnerships with First Nations communities, we will strike that important balance to protect the James Bay lowlands, but to sustainably develop resources so that young people from the north can wake up and expect, as they raise their families, the same kind of economic prosperity and reconciliation, if you will, that some communities in Ontario take for granted. We have the Northern Energy Advantage Program, which I, again, modified. The program offers competitive, stable electricity rates for the region's largest industrial consumers to enhance our competitiveness and our ability to attract investment. How does it work on the ground, Greg? That sounds like a policy, not a project. Well, Sault Ste. Marie and Algoma Steel made the deliberate choice to go to an electric arc furnace because they have a competitive electricity rate. And I can assure you, whether it's steel fabrication, forestry, and most importantly, mining, as we pivot to our capacity to process those minerals, especially critical minerals, electricity corridors and electricity rates for competitiveness will be the central focus of our government in energy and northern development. We started a Northern Ontario Resource Development Support Fund for mining and forestry sectors as an integral part of our economy. We know they also impact municipal infrastructure. And so through the Resource Development Support Fund, or NORDS as it's called, we've been able to make sure that municipalities and townships have the tools they need to make sure that municipal infrastructure serves the people who live there day to day and supports the pressures that that kind of economic activity can put on their roads and their water and wastewater treatment and other things. I mentioned the bridge across Barons River, but the Northern Highways program is like it has never been before. We are anticipating, not reacting. We know that culverts and smaller bridges need to be repaired all across Northern Ontario, and particularly in the isolated communities as the northern winter roads form. But for a variety of reasons, including climate change, those roads have become less dependable. And it isn't just the far northwest communities that are asking for road access. I met in Thunder Bay with communities in and around Sioux Lookout and the communities into the Ring of Fire corridor who have said majorly and nearly unanimously in private, we're ready to go and build roads to connect our communities. We've already done it through broadband. We know that now the harder work begins as we connect our communities from north to south. So the Winter Roads program is not just about a seasonal exercise. It's about preparing to partner with First Nations communities and build some of the most significant legacy infrastructure that's ever been built in the history of this province. I touched on the skilled workforce. I've been with the Premier up in Greenstone and other parts of Northern Ontario where we've announced significant investments in training centers. Some of them, those resources allocated in particular and specifically for the benefit of First Nations workforces. Large and small, whether it's a mock shop in the middle of a welding operation in Timmins, or the training to mobilize a nearly completely Indigenous workforce to complete the east-west tie. We're ready for projects big and small to connect our communities and put Northern Ontario in a place that it has never been before. At a macro level, we formed new relationships with the Chiefs of Ontario and taken a harder look at how we can meaningfully advance supply chains that are populated with First Nations businesses and ensure that the dialogue is clear, transparent, and as difficult as some of the subject matter can be, we're committed to it. And at the end, we see a collective interest in a kind of prosperity that benefits us all in Ontario, no matter where we live. So folks, I'm going to stand down shortly. I can assure you, I know it's been a great conference and we're just a couple of minutes over. I see the 4 zeros in front of me. But the global demand for our minerals has never been better and it's never been stronger. We're going to do the right thing at every turn, and I've quickly covered off a number of key areas that are important to me, to the leadership under Premier Ford and my other cabinet colleagues who've attended your conference. But I believe together we can unlock the opportunity for a vibrant Ontario, for a vibrant Northern Ontario, and foster innovation and a skilled workforce that is durable and will last as long as anybody could imagine. The world is going to need us, not just in the future, but starting right now. And this CENCAN Expo has put us on a good footing to let them know out there that Central Canada is ready. Are we ready, folks? With that, I'm going to close and let you know how much I appreciate this opportunity. My name is Greg Rickford. I'm the Member of Provincial Parliament for the Great Kenora Rainy River. It's a privilege and an honor to serve my constituents, and in my capacity as the Minister of Indigenous Affairs, First Nations Economic Reconciliation, and the Minister of Northern Development, to serve you too. Thank you for this opportunity.